We know if there is a point P on the unit circle making an angle X, we know that point's coordinate is A comma B we have taken, but later on that coordinate became cos X, sin X, right? We know here it's 0, here it's pi by 2, here it's pi, here it's 3 pi by 2, and here again it's 2 pi. Now we also know that the coordinate of each and every point on the unit circle was, here we were having 1 comma 0, here we were having 0 1, here this point's coordinate is x minus 1 y 0, and this point's coordinate is x 0 y minus 1. Okay, now from here we have also taken out few information, that is cos 0, like when this P is just coinciding with A, B, C and D. If P will coincide with C, then we know that the value of cos 0 will be 1 and the value of sin 0 will become 0. Similarly, it's not degree. Okay, it's everything we are taking in radian for now. Similarly, when P will just go and coincide with point B, that is cos pi by 2 and sin pi by 2. That time y value is 1 but x value is 0. That means cos pi by 2 0 and y is 1. Sin pi by 2 is 1. Similarly, cos pi and sin pi. We can see at pi, the coordinate is minus 1 comma 0. That means x is minus 1. Which one is representing x? Cos is representing x. So cos pi will be minus 1 and sin pi will be 0. And similarly, when we will go at 3 pi over 2, here at 3 pi over 2, x is 0, y is 1. So sin 3 pi by 2 will be 1 and cos 3 pi by 2 is 0. Similarly, when we will go and we'll write 2 pi, that is cos 2 pi and sin 2 pi, we will be having sin 2 pi and cos 2 pi. We can see at 2 pi, the coordinate I have already written as 1 comma 0. X coordinate is 1, y coordinate is 0. So we can say x means cos and y means sin. This much we have already discussed in the previous class. Was that clear to you, Lina and Izan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, Izan, was that clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Now we are going to plot the graph of y is equals to sin x. First, we will be talking about domain and range. When you will look at this value, like cos 0, cos pi by, not cos, sin 0, sin pi by 2, sin pi, sin 3 pi by 2, sin 2 pi. Then after 2 pi also I said there will be repetition, like 2 pi plus any number, like it will keep on moving, keep on moving, keep on moving. That means x value you can take as an angle, anything, any real number can be taken as a x value because it is not ending at 2 pi. It will continue after 2 pi, even if the value will repeat after that. But you can take any angle, any larger angle. And in the previous class, we were finding the value of such larger angle, the value of 1750 degree and the value of like 11 pi by 33, something like that. That means from there, what are you getting? That angle can be anything. Sin x Here x can be anything. And whenever we are saying x can be anything, that means all real numbers are acceptable over here. What can be the domain? Domain are x value. Whatever is acceptable for the given function, whatever will make the function define. So here we can take x value as a all real number, because you know angle can be anything, right? So I am going to say that domain of sine function is all real number. Is that clear to both of you?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
it clear? Is it clear, Lina and Nizam?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
range will be, what about range? Range will be, we have to check in between which number to which number we are getting the output. So as you can see, sine 0, 0, sine pi by 2, 1, sine pi 0, sine 3 pi by 2, 1, sine 2 pi 0. Now, when we are talking about unit circle, like sine x means what? In unit circle, sine x means y value. What is the maximum y value? Plus 1. What is the minimum y value? Minus 1. Can you see it? The maximum and minimum y value over there. Can you see this one and this one? The max and minimum y value.
Yes, ma'am.
So can I say the range of the sine function will be any number in between minus 1 to 1, including minus 1 and 1? Can I say, Izan?
Yes,
Range
ma'am.
y value. Y value means on y-axis, what can be the answer? Answer can be any number till 1 over there, and downside till minus 1. So the range of the sine function will be any number in between minus 1 to minus 2 plus 1, and including this number. Why? Because you can see here we have already got the value of sine pi by 2 as 1. Here sine 3 pi by 2, have I written it incorrectly? It will be minus 1. Okay. So domain of sine function is all real number. Range of sine function is line like from minus 1 to plus 1. Close interval. Okay. Now we will be plotting the graph of it. Let's plot it. As we know, domain plus 1 to minus 1. Here is 0. Here the value of angles I am going to write. So 0, 0, then pi by 2, then pi. From where I am writing? From the unit circle. You can check. After 0, when you will go, it's pi by 2. After pi by 2, it's pi. Then after pi, it's 3 pi by 2. And then it's 2 pi. And it's not ending at 2 pi. After 2 pi also, it will keep on repeating itself. Okay. The angles, obviously there will be a larger angle than 2 pi, and again the the graph will repeat itself, because in unit circle again the values are repeating itself. Okay, that's why I am going to plot it till 2 pi. Here we will be having minus pi by 2, minus pi, minus 3 pi by 2. Everything I am taking from the unit circle. That's why I have plotted unit circle over here. Okay, so that you can do the comparison and you can check it. Here, minus 2 pi. Okay, now let's check the values. Which value we already know. So at pi by 2, sine value is 1. So at pi by 2, sine value is 1. At 0, sine value is 0. At pi, sine value is again 0. At 3 pi by 2, sine value is minus 1. And at 2 pi, sine value is 0. Okay. Now sine minus pi by 2. What is the value of sine minus pi by 2? Let's go ahead and write it. Sine minus theta is minus sine theta. That is minus 1. So at sine minus pi by 2 value is minus 1. At sine pi is the integral multiple of pi will be 0. So here it's 0. At sine minus 3 pi by 2, sine minus 3 pi by 2 means what? We can write it as minus sine 3 pi by 2, and 3 pi by 2 value is negative 1. So we are getting plus 1 over there. Let's mark it plus 1. At minus 3 pi by 2 sine is plus 1. At minus 2 pi again sine will be 0 because integral multiple of n pi is 0. N can be any integer value. Okay, now let's connect all the dots. Can you see all the dots? I'm going to connect all the dots over here. Let's connect it. Can you see the graph of sin x? Both of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it clear to you how we have plotted the graph? Maybe in this chapter you will not use this graph extensively, but in future, every time whenever we are going to talk about trigonometric function, you should know the graph, and everywhere you have to use it. So this is how we got the graph of sin x. By unit circle, simple. So if that unit circle concept was clear to you, which we have discussed in the previous class, then this graph is very simple. I have just located the point, and I have just joined the points. That's it. And that's how we got the graph. Clear? Izan? After 2 pi, what will be the graph? Again, this cycle will get repeated. I am talking about this cycle. Again, this cycle, this complete cycle will repeat itself after 2 pi. So again, after 2 pi, you will be having the same thing. Again, after 4 pi, you will be having the same thing. So this graph is going to repeat itself again and again, again and again. Okay. So this is how we got the graph of sin x. Now let's move to cos x. Let me wipe the downside part. Now we are going to discuss about y is equals to cos x. At first, we will be discussing about the domain and then range, and then we will be moving towards the graph. So what's the domain of this function? As you know, the angle can be any value. Anything can be the angle. So obviously, domain can be any real number, right? We have taken out the value of the angle in the previous class, like 1560 degree find, or maybe find 3720 degree. What exactly it is representing? It is representing that the value of the angle can be anything, any real number possible. So the domain will be any real number, right? Are you getting it?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm going to write domain can be any real number. What about range? Range means what is the output? Okay. Cos means x value. like on the unit circle, cos is representing the x coordinate. In the coordinate system, cos x is representing x coordinate, where the value of here, if we will look at x axis, only x axis on the unit circle, here we can see the maximum value of x is 1 and the minimum value of x is -1. Can you see? So we can say that the domain of cosine function is also lying in between -1 to 1. Close interval, obviously, right? Yes or no? So can I write range as a -1 to 1? Just like the sine one? Because we have just this whole concept of sine and cos we have discussed with the help of unit circle, and we know that you on unit circle, like the coordinate of p is cos sine. Cos means x coordinate, sine means y coordinate. X is lying in between -1 to +1. So obviously range will be -1 to +1, right? Or you can also check it in your list that 0 is 1, pi by 2 is 0, pi is -1, 3 pi by 2 0, 2 pi is 1. Here the value is ranging from -1 to 1. Now after 2 pi, again there will be repetition of values. So the maximum value +1, minimum value -1, right? So from here also we can say that the range is from -1 to +1, close interval. Is it clear?
Yes,
Let's
ma'am.
I know the range +1, -1, 0. Here also I am going to take the angles, like first 0 degree, then pi by 2. Again, I said a degree because we are taking in radian. So please don't take degree, okay? Pi. After that, we are having 3 pi by 2. And then we are having 2 pi. Here also we are having -pi by 2. Then we are having -3 pi by 2. Then we are having -2 pi. Have we taken it properly? 0, pi by 2, pi, 3 pi by 2, 2 pi. 0, pi by 2, pi, 3 pi by 2, 2 pi. Then 0, pi by 2. Here the intervals I have not taken properly. Let me take it. Yeah. Now let's plot the graph. Okay. So let me mark the location by looking at our list. So what is the list? Cos 0 is 1. Cos 0 is 1. Cos pi by 2 is 0. Cos pi by 2 is 0. Cos pi is -1. Cos pi is -1. Now cos 3 pi by 2 is 0. Cos 3 pi by 2 is 0. And what about cos 2 pi? It's 1. 1. We got all the point on the right hand side. Let's think about left hand side. So cos minus pi by 2, cos of negative theta will be cos theta only, right? And what is the value of cos pi by 2? Go and check. It's 0. So cos minus pi by 2 is 0. What about cos minus pi? So cos minus pi, cos pi. Why I am writing angles like that? Because in the previous class I have discussed that cos of minus theta will be only cos theta. Sine of minus theta will be minus sine theta, right? So cos pi, what is the value of cos pi? Check it, -1. So we will be having -1, cos negative pi will be -1. Similarly, cos minus 3 pi by 2 is just same as cos 3 pi by 2. And what is the value of cos 3 by 2? 3 pi by 2 from the unit circle, it's 0. And what's the value of cos 2 pi from the unit circle? Rather than minus 2 pi, I'm taking 2 pi because minus 2 pi will be same for cosine. So it's +1. Let's join all the points. Okay, let me join. Can you see the graph of cos x? You will never ever forget the graph now. If I would have just plotted the graph and have told you to memorize the graph, like it's not possible, okay, to memorize how sine is going, how cos is going. You can see both the graph, like there is a difference between both the graph. Sine 0, 0, but cos 0, 1. Both are sinusoidal graph only. Wave is there. You can see both the waves looks like same, but there is a difference. Can you see? Here, one complete cycle is this one from here to here. This is one complete cycle, 0 to 2 pi. After 2 pi, again there will be a cycle like this only. The same graph will be repeating itself. On that side also, after minus 2 pi, if you will go ahead, the same graph will going to repeat itself. Okay. So this is how we got the graph of cos x. Now we will be plotting the graph of similarly the other trigonometric function, that is tan x, cot x, sec x, cosec x. Okay, let's plot it one by one. Is it clear so far to both of you? Izan, are you getting it?
Yes,
Izan?
ma'am.
Yes. Just give me a second. Let me inform that we are discussing the concept of graphs today, and after this class you will be able to give the assessment related to graph of trigonometric function. Okay, let's move to the next graph, that is the graph of tan x. When we are thinking about tan x, first thing first is to think about the domain and range. Domain means everything, whatever is acceptable for x. We will take all the real number. Like if all the real number will make the function defined, we will take all the real number. If any real numbers are there that will not make the function defined, so we will exclude those real number and we will take rest of the number which will make the function define. What is the meaning of define? So tan x means sin x by cos x. And we know 0 in the denominator is not acceptable. Okay, that will make the function undefined. So 0 is not acceptable. What is the cosine value where we will always have a 0? So we know odd multiple of pi by 2 for cos gives 0, right? Here we are having, you can check it. Cos pi by 2, 0. Cos 3 pi by 2, 0. Cos 5 pi by 2, 0. Cos 7 pi by 2, 0. Cos minus pi by 2, 0. Cos minus 3 pi by 2, 0. So odd multiple of pi by 2 will always be 0 for cosine. Okay. So here we can say everything is okay, but we don't need 2n plus 1 pi by 2. These value will make this function tan undefined. Okay, so it can be all the real number, domain can be all the real number, but not this odd multiple of pi by 2, because that is where denominator will get 0 and that is where the function will get undefined. So what will be the domain? Domain will be the set of all x such that x belongs to real number, but x must not be 2n plus 1 pi by 2, where n is an integer. Got it? What will be the domain? Domain will be all real number except odd multiple of pi by 2. So how to write except odd multiple of pi by 2? In set chapter we have learned this is the way which can be used to write it, right? Now what can be the range? What can be the value of tan x? So let's check it. For tan, let's check few values, not few, let's check all the values, okay? And then we will be plotting the graph, which will help us also to plot the graph. So I'm going to find tan 0. Tan 0 means sine 0 by cos 0. What is sine 0? Yes, please unmute yourself. What is sine 0? Do we need to go back again and again, or you know already what is sine 0? Yeah, it's 0. What is cos 0? It's 1. So sine 0 is 0 and cos 0 is 1. 0 by any 0 divided by any number is just 0. What is tan pi by 2? It's sine pi by 2 by cos pi by 2, right? What is the value of sine pi by 2? Quickly, anybody please tell me. Sine pi by 2 value is 1. Cos pi by 2 is 0. So 0 in the denominator called undefined, or it is also called infinity. So this undefined, we also write it as infinity. Okay, this is the infinity sign. Now let's find the other tan pi. What is the value of tan pi? So tan pi will be sine pi by cos pi. Still, if you have not learned the trigonometric table, I suggest you to just after this class just go and learn. Here I am showing you sine pi is 0, cos pi is minus 1. So 0 by minus 1, again it's 0. 0 divided by any number will be 0 itself. Okay, but 0 in the denominator is not acceptable. In the denominator, 0 is not acceptable. If you are having 0 in the numerator, that will make the whole division. After the whole division, you will end up getting answer as a 0. Similarly, what will be the value of tan 3 pi by 2? Tan 3 pi by 2 means sine 3 pi by 2 by cos 3 pi by 2. Cos 3 pi by 2, we already know it's 0. And sine 3 pi by 2, let's check it. It's negative 1. So negative 1 by 0 will be negative infinity. 0 in the denominator means not defined, and this not defined we also write it as a infinity. So we usually write 1 by 0 as a positive infinity and minus 1 by 0 as a negative infinity. Okay, this is how we write it. We also need tan 2 pi value. So the value of tan 2 pi will be sine 2 pi by cos 2 pi. What is the value of sine 2 pi? Integral multiple of pi is 0. So the answer will be 0. Let's plot the graph quickly. So 0, pi by 2, pi, 3 pi by 2, and 2 pi. Similarly here minus pi by 2, minus pi, minus 3 pi by 2. After this class, no, just sit and draw the whole graph, write the domain, write the range, draw the whole graph by yourself without looking anywhere. Okay? Minus 2 pi. Let's make the points. Okay? Let's make the dots. So pi by 2 value, I have already taken it out. This is plus infinity. So wherever tan is undefined, I am going to just draw a dotted line over there, because so pi by 2 it's undefined. I said odd multiple of pi by 2, tan will be undefined, and that point we have excluded from the domain. So these are the area where tan will be not be defined. Okay, I have made the dotted line because here tan is not defined. Okay, now what's the value of tan 0? It's 0. Okay, what's the value of tan pi by 2? It's when you are taking tan pi by 2, it's undefined, or we can say it's moving towards positive infinity. So from here it's moving towards positive infinity. On y-axis, when you will go up and up and up and up, it's positive infinity. Okay, and when you will go down 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 and down, it's negative infinity. Okay, now what about tan minus pi by 2? Tan minus pi by 2 will be tan negative theta will be minus tan pi by 2. And what is the value of tan pi by 2? It's infinity. So negative infinity, right? So here it will be coming like going towards negative infinity. It will not touch the dotted line. Okay. It will touch the dotted line at infinity. These are called the asymptotes. In future, you will be learning the concept of asymptotes. I'm not going to explain it for now because it is not required for now. So this is how one of the part will look like. Now each and every part will repeat like this only. So this is how we will be having the graph of tan. I'm going to just plot rest of the part just like this one. Is this much is clear to both of you? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it clear? This much part is clear. Now in all the dotted line, like in between all the dotted line, I'm going to repeat this pattern. That will be the graph of tan theta. Okay, let me repeat it. So here this will be going positive infinity, and from here it will be going to negative infinity. Similarly, here it will be going positive infinity, and here it will be going negative infinity. This is how your tan theta graph will look like. Okay, let's move to cot. Again, domain and range. Cot means cos over sine. Now, please tell me what will be the domain, because till now I have only told you what will be the domain. Now you are supposed to tell me what will be the domain of the given function. What will be the domain? Anyone? Yes, anyone? Izan, what can be the domain? Domain means all the x value we can take except those where the function is not defined. Where this function will not be defined? Can you see cot means cos by sine? And when the denominator is 0, that's the point where the function will not be defined. So what are those points where the sine is 0? Any idea? We were discussing in the next class, in the previous class, no, that cos is not defined at pi by 2. Like cos is 0 at pi by 2, 3 pi by 2, 5 pi by 2, 7 pi by 2. Similarly, odd multiple of pi by 2. Sine is not defined at, like not defined, no, sine is 0 at. Yes, Lena. What are those points where sine is 0?
The even multiples.
Yeah, sine is 0 at integral multiple of n pi. When we are having pi, when we are having 2 pi, when we are having 3 pi, 4 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, or even when we are having minus pi, minus 2 pi, minus 3 pi, minus 4 pi, any integral multiple of pi, there the sine function will be 0, right? You can check it in the unit circle. Can you see sine pi is 0? Can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
90 pi is 0. Similarly, when we will be finding sine minus pi, it will be minus sine pi, and still it will be 0. If you will be finding sine minus 2 pi, still it will be 0, because minus 0 is 0 only. So sine is 0 at pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, 6 pi, 7 pi, 8 pi, 9 pi to 10 pi, means all the integral all the like integers when you will take in front. Integer is, what are integer? Integers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Positive number, positive integer, negative integer. So when you are writing any integer in front of pi, that time sign will give you a 0 value. Okay. So here sine n pi, that's why in like we give the conclusion that sine n pi is 0, where n can be any integer. Okay. So here I am going to write domain can be all real number except n pi, where n are integers. Can I write it? Domain can be any real number, because cot means cos by sine. So all real number are acceptable. Domain can be set of x such that x can be any real number. But at x must not be n pi, where n is integers. Why not n pi? Because that time this denominator will become 0 and the function will become undefined. Only two places are there where the function will be undefined, like in general, that is 0 in the denominator is not acceptable, under root negative term is not acceptable. These are the main two things which we need to avoid. Are you getting it?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
what is the range? So when you will find cot x value just by reversing tan, let's reverse tan and find cot x value. Tan 0, 0 we have found, cot 0 will be still 0. Tan pi by 2 is 1 by 0. Can you see? Better find it, otherwise you will end up getting confused. So cot 0 means cos 0 by sine 0. What is cos 0? Cot pi by 2 means cos pi by 2 over sine pi by 2. Just tell me the value quickly. Okay. Cot pi means cos pi by sine pi. Cot 3 pi by 2 means cos 3 pi by 2 by sine 3 pi by 2. And similarly, cot 2 pi means cos 2 pi by sine 2 pi. Let's find the value of each and every one quickly. So, what is the value of cos 0?
1.
1 by 0. Is it defined? 0 in the denominator not defined, and we also write it as a infinity. Okay. Cos pi by 2 by sine pi by 2. Cos pi by 2. What is the value of cos pi by 2? Quickly.
0.
0. And this is 1. So 0 by any number is just 0. Now cot pi is equals to cos pi by sine pi. What is the value of cos pi?
-1.
Minus 1 by 0, because sine pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, everything is 0. So no need to just recall the concept and all. You know that it will be 0. Minus 1 by 0 will be minus infinity. 0 in the denominator is not acceptable, and that means undefined. This undefined can also be written as infinity. When we are having 1 by 0, we write it as a positive infinity. When we are having minus 1 by 0, we write it as a negative infinity. 3 pi by 2, cos 3 pi by 2, odd
0.
multiple of, yes, it's 0, no? Cos odd multiple of pi by 2 will be 0. And sine 3 pi by 2 will be minus 1, right? So eventually it's 0. Are you getting it, Lena?
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, you can check it. Cos 3 pi by 2. Can you see? It's 0. Cos odd multiple of pi by 2 will always be 0. So it's 3 pi by 2, 5 pi by 2, 7 pi by 2. If in front of pi by 2, you are having an odd number, that for cos will give always 0. Okay. Now cos 2 pi by sine 2 pi. So cos 2 pi is what? Sine 2 pi, sine pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, 6 pi, everything is 0. Now only I was telling you that integral multiple of pi for sine will be 0. And cos 2 pi will be 1. No? So we will be having positive infinity. Okay, let's plot the graph. 0, pi by 2, pi, 3 pi by 2, and here 2 pi. Here minus pi by 2, minus pi, minus 3 pi by 2, and minus 2 pi. Cosine is not defined. Range we have not written. What will be the range? Range will be all real number. Why? Because you can see the values we are getting, it is going sometime plus infinity, it is going sometime minus infinity. So everything in between plus infinity to minus infinity, all are real number only. That's why the range of this cot x will be all real number. Is it okay? Now range is all real number, and we know cot function is not defined at n pi. N pi means 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi. So here also I am going to draw a dotted line at n pi. N pi means 1 pi. Here the cot is not defined. 2 pi, here minus pi, minus 2 pi. These are the points at which cot function is not defined. Now at 0, we have found the value. It is plus infinity. Okay. At pi by 2, it is 0. So at pi by 2, it's 0. Here it is plus infinity. That means it will go like this. Okay. Plus infinity. When x value is approaching 0, y value is approaching plus infinity, that you will understand in the concept of limits and function. So it will just be parallel to this line going infinity. Just this two will be parallel and will not meet with each other. Okay. At pi, it is minus infinity. So the graph will go like this. Can you see the graph? Can you see it? I'm going to repeat the same pattern here, 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 everywhere. Because now this pattern will get repeated. Is it clear to both of you? So
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
like this one. Here 0 and here like this. Here also. Can you see? Izan, is it clear to you? Is
Yes,
it?
ma'am.
So this is how we will get the graph of cortex. Okay. Now let me check. Now we are done with cot, tan. We have to do still sec x and cosec x. Let's do it quickly. When we are having y is equals to sec x, how exactly the graph will look like. But before that, we were discussing about domain and range. Sec means what? 1 by cos, right? So what will be the domain? Now you must tell me, because I have explained you about tan, about cot. Sec x, you can easily tell me. Anyone? Yes, anyone? What can be the domain of sec x? Where the function is not defined. Izan? The points where the function is not defined. Where exactly the cos x is 0. Yeah. Cos x is always 0 at odd multiple of pi by 2. So it's 0 at pi by 2, 3 pi by 2, 5 pi by 2, 7 pi by 2. Odd multiple of pi by 2, cosine will always be 0. And I said to you this function 1 by cos x, when you will write 1 by 0, the function is undefined. This 0 we don't want. That means the point which can give 0, that is odd multiple of pi by 2, 2n plus 1 pi by 2, and can be any number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Any integer value you can take as a value of n. That point, at that point, this domain, this denominator will become 0, and at that time our function sec x will get undefined. So we have to exclude this point. sec x का क्या मतलब होता है? 1 by cos x. अब डोमेन का क्या मतलब होता है कि जो जो वैल्यू x के लिए हम लोग ले सकते हैं उसको डोमेन बोलते हैं. तो x के लिए तो कोई भी वैल्यू ले सकते हैं, फिर रियल नंबर में से कोई भी रियल नंबर ले सकते हैं. लेकिन जब भी एंगल ऑड मल्टीपल ऑफ पाई बाई 2 होगा वो नहीं ले सकते, क्योंकि उससे क्या होगा, डेनोमिनेटर 0 बन जाएगा और डेनोमिनेटर 0 होते ही हमारा फंक्शन अनडिफाइन हो जाएगा। तो कौन कौन सा वो एंगल है जिसपे डेनोमिनेटर 0 हो जाएगा? वो एंगल है π/2, 3π/2, 5π/2, 7π/2। ये सब जो एंगल्स है इस पे कॉस 0 हो जाता है, जिससे कि डेनोमिनेटर 0 हो जाएगा sec x का। Okay, so here we are not going to take this point. So domain will be all the real number except odd multiple of π/2. Are you getting it? Both of you?
Yes, ma'am.
So I am going to write that domain x will be set of all x such that x belongs to all real number, but again x must not be odd multiple of π/2 where n is integer. Okay, what can be the range? So we know the range of cos value lie in between -1 to +1. Okay, this this one's range is lying in between -1 to +1. So sec x range will also come out like that only, right? cos x का रेंज क्या होता है? -1 से +1 के बीच में कोई भी नंबर होता है, -1 भी हो सकता है, +1 भी हो सकता है। सो sec x का भी रेंज cos x के हेल्प से हम लोग निकाल सकते हैं क्या क्या आउटपुट होगा। तो -1 से +1 के बीच में चलो कुछ नंबर्स ले लेते हैं। ओके, so one number I am going to take as a 0. Here I am going to take as a 0 point, let's say 2, 0.3. Here I am going to 0.5. Here I am going to take -0.2, -0.3. Okay, these are few numbers I am going to take. Let me on the calculator and let me show you the calculation. sec x का मतलब होता है 1/cos x एंड cos x का वैल्यू -1 से 1 के बीच में होता है। ये हमने डिस्कस किया था। इसका आउटपुट क्या होगा? हमेशा -1 से 1 के बीच में होगा। -1 भी हो सकता है, 1 भी हो सकता है और उसके बीच का कोई भी नंबर हो सकता है। तो फिर sec x का आउटपुट क्या होगा? दैट वी आर गोइंग टू सी। ओके, लेट मी ऑन द कैलकुलेटर एंड लेट मी शो इट टू यू। Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Now only I told you that the value of cos, the output of cos will always be in between -1 to +1. Hence, we can take out the output of sec x with the help of cos x. Okay, so it can be -1, it can be +1. That calculation is very simple. But what if when you are taking a decimal number? So I am going to show you what about decimal number. So if we are taking, suppose 1 divided by -0.2. Let's see the output. Can you see the output? Is it -5? Can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me take another value. 1 divided by minus 0.0002. Can you see we are getting minus 5,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, if we will take a positive number in between minus 1, say in between -1 to +1, if we are taking any positive number, let's take it. If we will be taking 1 divided by 0.5, can you see we are getting 2? Similarly, if we will be taking 1 divided by 0.000, let's say 4, we are getting 2500. So what exactly I want to show you, that in denominator, when you are taking any number in between -1 to +1, your output is coming outside. If you are taking a positive number, your output is getting bigger and bigger and bigger than 1, right? If you are taking a negative number from here, -0.2, -0.3, -0.5, -0.8 in the denominator, again your output is going in the left direction, which is smaller than -1. It is far from -1. Can you see the pattern? We are getting -5. We are getting -5,000. Do you want to check for any number? You can tell me the number, I will check it. Yes, Izan, for which number you want to check? मैं बोल रही हूँ कि cos x का वैल्यू -1 से 1 के बीच में रहता है, ठीक है? तो sec x का कितने से कितने के बीच में रहेगा वो हम लोग चेक कर रहे हैं. तो cos x का -1 से 1 के बीच में जो वैल्यू रहता है, वी आर टेकिंग few numbers from -1 to 1, and we are checking what is the output when we are doing 1 by those number, because sec x means 1 by cos. So if we are taking any number in between -1 to 1 in the denominator for cosine, what can be the sec x value? Can you see it is getting apart, like it is getting in this direction from 1, it is getting in this direction from -1. Can you see it? Can you see? So I am going to conclude it over here that I am going to say that when we are taking any number in between -1 to 1, the sec x value is just going in this direction. It can be 1 or it can be more than 1, and it can be -1 and it can be less than -1. Do you agree with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So range of sec x, I am going to write it from here. Just a second. Yeah. So range of sec x, I am going to write, it will be set of, let's say set of all y, such that y will be any real number, and also y belongs to real number, and those real number will must follow this pattern, that is y must be greater or equals to 1, or y must be less than or equals to -1. Why I'm taking 1 and -1? Because cos, the value of cos can be -1, it can be 1. So definitely sec x can be 1 by minus 1, that is minus 1 only, or 1 by 1, that is 1 only. That's why greater equals to sign I am using over here. Is it clear to both of you, the range?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's move to the figure directly, the graph. So this is 0. Here we are having pi by 2. Here we are having pi. Here, let me check the time. Okay, still we will be able to finish this sec x and cosec x. Pi, 3 pi by 2 and 2 pi. I have taken the whole class to explain you this topic because this topic is very important. Okay, even now you will feel like it's not that important, but when you will go in class 12 everywhere, you will be just this graph will be required, and you must know the concept of unit circle. You must know the domain and ranges of the trigonometric function. You must know the graph of these functions. So this is how now we know that range will be more than 1 or less than minus 1. Range we already know. Now we need to check few values, that is sec pi by 2, sec pi by 2. Let me write it over here. Here only let me write it. Sec pi by 2, sec pi, sec 3 pi by 2. Let me check which exactly one we will draw, and rest of like the graph will be same like that pattern. So let me take that one. So sec pi by 2 will be reverse of cos pi by 2. What is cos pi by 2? Anyone?
0.
Cos pi by 2 is 0. So sec pi by 2 will be 0. Cos pi is
-1.
negative 1. So sec pi will be again 1 by minus 1. That is minus 1. What is sec 3 pi by 2? Again odd
0.
multiple. Please don't forget. Okay, odd multiple of cos 3 pi by 2 is 0. So sec 3 pi by 2 will be 1 by 0. That means infinity. Can I write? Can I write infinity?
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, sec 2 pi. So cos 2 pi is what? 1, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now let me check. Do we need to take sec minus pi by 2 also? Then that is 1 by cos minus pi by 2. That means just cos pi by 2, and still it will become 1 by 0. And again we are getting infinity over here. Here also sec pi by 2, we have written it, the cos value. Just a moment. Yeah. So sec pi by 2 means 1 by cos pi by 2. And cos pi by 2 you say it as a 0. So that will be 1 by 0. That means infinity. Right? Right, Lena?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's draw the graph. So here we have to first draw the dotted line at which our function is not defined, because that will guide us how the repetition will occur. So the dotted line where the graph is not defined is x belongs to R, but x must not be odd multiple of pi by 2. So at pi by 2, at 3 pi by 2, at minus 3 pi by 2. Okay, these are the places where the function is not defined, and first thing first we will plot the dotted line over here. Now sec pi by 2 I have drawn. What will be the value of sec 0? It will be 1 by cos 0, and it will be 1. So sec 0 is 1. Okay, from here it is going till infinity, and here also it will be going till infinity. Have we missed any point over here? Yeah, we have missed. I have not written pi by 2 over here. Here minus pi by 2 I have not written, and here minus pi. So the disturbing point is this one, odd multiple of pi by 2 where the function is not defined. So this is how our graph will look like. Both way it will be going towards infinity. Starting from 1, I said to you the range of this function will be 1 or more than 1. Now from the bottom it is 1, minus 1 or less than 1. This is how the graph will be moving. Can you see it? From 1 or more than 1, like this, and in the bottom it is minus 1 or less than minus 1. Is it, are you getting it?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is how our graph will look like. Okay, here we will be having till here only, because 2 pi only I have taken, so it will be just till 1, and then we'll follow the same after that. Here also it will keep on following, one down one up, one down one up, like that. But you need to make the dotted line the disturbing points. Is it okay? Now the similar way we are going to plot the graph of cosec x. Let's plot it. When we are having y is equals to cosec x, here also cosec means what? 1 by sine. Domain is very simple. Now I don't have to explain the concept of domain, because you already know the disturbing point where the sign is 0. Sign where what are the those point where the sign is 0? Integral multiple of pi. Okay, so domain will be all real number, but x must not be integral multiple of pi. Those are domain, right? And is integer. What will be the range? So sine x value also lie in between minus 1 to 1. So just like the cosine one, here also our range will be set of all y, such that y can be real number, but that real number and y will be greater or equals to 1 this side, and y will be or either this one or that one, or y will be less or equals to minus 1, just like the cos one. Because again I'm not going to take few decimal number to on the calculator to show you that exactly we will be getting all the number bigger than 1 or lesser than minus 1. Okay, here also the graph, let me plot it. First plot the disturbing points. 0, pi by 2, pi, 3 pi by 2, 2 pi. Here minus pi by 2, here minus pi, minus 3 pi by 2, here minus 2 pi. It is more than 1 and less than minus 1, the output. Now, disturbing point means what is not acceptable, that we will plot the dotted line. So what is not acceptable? N pi. 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, 6 pi. So 1 pi, 2 pi here, minus pi, minus 2 pi. These are not acceptable. Here, at this point, the graph is not defined. Okay. Now this will guide us to plot the graph of the cosec function. So cosec, we can check what is the value of cosec pi by 2. So cosec pi by 2 means 1 by sine pi by 2. And what is the value of sine pi by 2? What is the value of sine pi by 2?